Hello there guys, what is going on? Son of Chelsea back here again for another episode of Added Time, answering your questions once again you kindly submitted on YouTube and on Twitter, mostly surrounding yesterday's game, more fallout from it, discussion surrounding it, which is good. My full review of the game, the Rational Perspective, is up on the channel already, so please go and check that out if you haven't seen it already. But let's get into your questions. Firstly, here from Matisse Armani, friend of the channel. I've had him on several times on the channel this season, great guest. Is N'Golo Kante a long-term solution at CDM, or was this an isolated performance? It's going to be interesting to me to see what Lampard does now he has Jorginho back from suspension. Will he reinsert Jorginho into the first team, or will he keep Kante in that deeper position? I thought Kante was incredible yesterday, very much getting back to his best, which is brilliant to see, back to fitness. I think that was the most amazing thing. It was interesting to me looking at the reaction to it, because of course you have sort of two sides of the debate, don't you? You have the people who believe in N'Golo Kante, that's his best position, that's the only position he can play on the football pitch. Or you have people who actually think he's actually a bit more than that and he can play a little bit more advanced. My feeling is just generally now that no matter where you put Kante in a midfield, he still gets everywhere, because that's how sensational of a player and unique of a midfielder he is. He was spraying passes cross-field from left to right throughout that first half and doing similar in the second half. He made some brilliant interceptions later on in the game to stop the likes of Jack Grealish getting into the game and getting Villa back into the game. I think Lampard will maybe opt for that once again against Man City, because you need a player like N'Golo Kante when you're playing a team like City. Chelsea won't have as much of the ball, so we do need Kante in there to be the engine room to maybe progress the ball from deep. I'd like maybe Jorginho or Kovacic to be in there as well to help in terms of keeping possession. But I guess there's always that concern, isn't there, of losing the ball in midfield against Man City, which is so dangerous. I think Kante will be maybe a little bit deeper. I think based off of yesterday and how well it worked, I think Lampard will maybe stick with this going forward. Whether he'll always be the deepest lying midfielder for Chelsea, I'm not entirely sure. I think dependent on the opponent and considering the amount of games we're going to play, I think you'll see some rotation here. El Chelsea asks, who should be our centre-back pairing for the remaining games of the season? Keep up the good work. Thank you, mate. It's probably Frank Lampard's most difficult dilemma coming out of yesterday's game. Was, you know, what is going to be the centre-back pairing? What is going to work best? Because that combination yesterday just, for me, just didn't work. I know some stats that have come out after the game, you know, showed Christensen's improved performance in the second half, but I still feel there's too many shaky moments in there for me, and it's worrying moving forward for me. And I think that's going to be something that concerns Frank Lampard, considering games where we're going to have a lot more of the ball. You know, against Man City, where that sharpness and awareness really needs to be there, and we aren't going to have as much of the ball. That concentration for me is key for Chelsea's defenders, and it's trying to find out what is the best pairing to stop errors like that yesterday, to stop one chance going in from Aston Villa against a run of play. I personally believe Kurt Zouma and Fikayo Tomori has been Chelsea's best centre-back pairing this season. Of course, Tomori is injured at the moment. I don't know when he's going to be back. So then, depending on that, when he's back, how long will it take him to get back to match sharpness? Because, of course, he hasn't played yet. That's going to be an intriguing thing for me. That would be my centre-back pairing just based on what I've seen this season. I want to see Kurt Zouma come back, so I probably put Kurt Zouma and Antonio Rudiger back. I've seen Kurt Zouma and Christensen before, and the problem with that is Zouma has to go out on the left, which I don't think he's as comfortable as doing. I think Valencia he played in that game and it wasn't really good, didn't really work that well. So I think Zouma and Rudiger maybe for now, but once again it may change later on. It's just difficult at the moment because it's been such a big problem for Frank Lampard all season. Maybe he'll start Rudiger and Christensen again against Man City and it will start to work and they can build up some sort of chemistry. Chopping and changing, of course, is a big problem for Lampard this season as well, as it lacks that consistency. I think Kurt Zouma for me definitely has to be back in the team sooner rather than later. Daniel Sinclair asks, would you sacrifice our chance to sign Kai Havertz and spend that money on a new centre-back such as Koulibaly? Whether it's Koulibaly or not, I was speaking to Louis Benavente on the channel last week about this, and Koulibaly, I feel like that's past now. I feel like that was a player that maybe we could have got a few years before. I think he'll probably stay at Napoli now for a little bit longer. I think Chelsea's biggest problem is obvious options in terms of centre-back. Gabriel Magalhaes was really the biggest target, or the most clear target I've seen from Chelsea this season. There's been talk of Nathan Ake again, but I'm not so sure Nathan Ake really improves what we've got. If I'm being honest, I don't look at Nathan Ake and think, yeah, he's an upgrade on the current centre-backs in truth. And I think that could be Chelsea's problem. Maybe because I think centre-back has been an area that's been forgotten a bit in terms of recruitment. We're looking at mostly attacking players at the moment, creative players like Kai Havertz. And it's interesting to me, I put out a tweet yesterday during the game after I think we conceded that, you know, all this talk about Havertz, another central midfielder for Chelsea. I think that could be something we see more in coming weeks as the games progress, and if Chelsea continue to concede sloppy goals, I think Frank Lampard will want to look in the transfer market to try and improve in that area. I just think it's who you're going to spend that amount of money on that isn't coming to the end of his career and can really improve the first team. I think Koulibaly maybe is just a player I think maybe we've missed the boat on at this point. I still think can have maybe a couple good years in him, but if you're going to spend that amount, you want a player who's going to be at your club for like 5 to 6 years in my opinion, and Frank Lampard wants to go for younger players. So Magalhaes could be that player, and maybe sacrificing Havertz could be the thing for me. Ty Tran asks, will Loftus-Cheek stay in that left wing? I'm sure he'll play better as it continues on, but once Timo Werner comes in next year, it's very crowded in that left side moving forward. Where will all his minutes come from? I agree. I think that Loftus-Cheek will revert to a central midfield role, maybe left central midfield role, where I think he plays best. I mean, I've got another question about Loftus-Cheek coming up. So I think at the moment, Lampard is doing that, I think potentially because of the futures of Willian and Pedro and not having those players. And I think he wants to look for alternatives potentially out wide if we're not going to have Willian and Pedro if they leave in a couple of weeks' time. I think tomorrow, I think it is, when we'll find out about this deadline, whether to sign those extensions for the remainder of the season or not. I think it's very unlikely Pedro will still be here because he didn't even play yesterday as well, even though he was in the squad. I think that's why he's doing it at the moment. I think Loftus-Cheek's long-term future will be competing in central midfield. So I don't think that's too much of a concern for me with Loftus-Cheek. Still coming back into fitness. I think he will eventually revert back to central midfield for Lampard, where I think is his best position. Manhandled CFC asks, can you see us rotating the starting 11 for every game? The players are clearly short of match sharpness. I thought the fitness levels of Chelsea weren't bad yesterday. I think that wasn't really the problem for me. I think Chelsea had a lot of the ball. I think it was just similar problems we've had all season, really. So I didn't see a drop in fitness, but I agree with you. Lampard has actually talked about this. He referenced this in his post-match interview, where he was talking about reminding the players about the level of games they have, and there's clearly going to be rotation in a number of areas, which is going to be maybe difficult for chemistry and building that chemistry over a short period of time. I get the sense Chelsea apparently have been quite good with their fitness, and players came back looking fit and they feel the players are quite sharp. But I think you're going to have to do it, especially in those attacking areas, maybe fullback areas. You know, I think Dave and Reece James will be rotating a bit. I think Alonso and Emerson may be rotating as well. Central midfield, that engine room of central midfield, I think Loftus-Cheek, Mason Mount, the wingers as well. I think, you know, Tammy Giroud. I think you're going to see a lot of that, especially considering you've got Man City on Thursday and then quickly after that Leicester on Sunday in the FA Cup. There's got to be a rotation, so I fully expect it'll be very rare where we see 2 games back to back with the same starting 11. MC Victor asks, does Lampard have an issue with Christian Pulisic starting games for Chelsea when he's fit? I don't think he does. I think Lampard, once again in his post-match interview, was talking about this. He thought it was very harsh on Christian Pulisic and Ross Barkley that neither of them started the game. I think Christian Pulisic's impact was amazing. What an amazing return to the Chelsea first team. I saw a stat that he hadn't actually started a Chelsea game because of his fitness issues since New Year's Day against Brighton, and I thought he was harshly taken off that day. So a great return for Christian Pulisic. Lampard was talking about his threat for goals, his anticipation in the box, which I think is brilliant, and I think is going to be something that Chelsea need to capitalise on. I think Lampard needs to utilise, because I think it's a major strength in Pulisic's game that we've seen this season. And now, after that goal yesterday, he's now second top goal scorer behind Tammy Abraham with 6 Premier League goals. Very impressive for Christian Pulisic for his first season in the Premier League, with all those injury issues, concerns about adapting to the Premier League earlier in the year, still being a young player for a big price. I don't think he's got an issue, and I think very much I fully expect that Christian Pulisic now, after yesterday's impact, will be a regular starter under Lampard once again. And lastly, Mark Stevens asks opinion on Ruben Loftus-Cheek's first game. Great to see Ruben back on the pitch. I could really overanalyze his performance. He was out of position. I think his best position is in central midfield. I think that's just the big win of yesterday for Loftus-Cheek. Just getting back on the pitch, getting substantial minutes, feeling good again on the pitch, feeling confident on the pitch, getting some of those cobwebs off, maybe the pressure or the nerves that I'm sure Ruben may have had before the game about getting re-injured, especially considering after this lockdown break. I think that'll be the positive, and that should be the main positive for Chelsea fans, is seeing him finally available again for Frank Lampard. I think I'd like to see him back in central midfield, but that's going to take time. I really hope fans are patient with Ruben, understanding how long it's been and how difficult a road it has been back to recovery for him. But I think that's a positive. You know, of course, the performance in itself wasn't that great. I felt he was a bit of a spare part in that first half, never really was able to get involved in the game properly. But hopefully, as he gets back to better fitness, better match sharpness, maybe reverts back to central midfield, I think he's still got the quality to really impact Chelsea's games moving forward. So I think it's just a big win finally after months, after a year of waiting, over a year of waiting. Ruben Loftus-Cheek is back fit for Chelsea, which is a positive. So that is it for this episode of Added Time. Thank you guys so much for taking the time to watch this video. If you did enjoy it, hit that subscribe button and a notification bell so you never miss an upload. Follow me on Twitter. Have a great day, and I'll see you again.